In case you don't know who I am, I talk about country music. I made this video which a lot of people liked, so I decided to continue this discussion further with Olivia Rodrigo's debut album, Sour. I expressed interest in her career a lot online and actually wanted to see where it was going. Even though I think her debut song was a pretty iffy start, let alone even good for that matter, it was obvious she had potential, and I wanted to see if Olivia Rodrigo was more than just the one song. Driver's License has stayed about the same way in my mind, just a decent 6 out of 10. Deja Vu was better, really uncanny with its dialogue, but still, and Good For You honestly was pretty good, not gonna lie. That one had me dying. It definitely was gonna be a breakup album given how the past 3 songs were centered around a similar storyline, and what I love to see in those types of albums is the 5 stages of grief and have it conveyed throughout the entire album. Did it do that? Okay, so first thing I will say, to the people who are worried she was trying to be just like Taylor Swift, don't worry. I was very pleased that this wasn't anything like a Taylor Swift album. Problem is, this is nowhere near as good as the Taylor albums, and from here on out, I will stop the comparisons and treat it as its own entity. The core theme of this album is pettiness, and I low-key love to see that in my music. A lot of people are gonna hate it for that, but I really love petty songs. It is my bread and butter. One of the primary reasons I love Good For You. Most can agree she's an exceptional vocalist. Given the lackluster writing, her delivery really carries the tracks on this album, especially the weaker ones like Driver's License and Enough For You. It ups the intensity and gravitas of these songs extremely well when it's needed. Okay, that's enough talking about good stuff on this album, or I'm going to have a stroke. This album is way too caught up on the petty drama. There is such a thing as too much pettiness, because essentially for about 70% of the album, the stories are just being recycled over and over. It almost never wants to leave this gloomy state of mind at all. It utilizes the pain and the anger far too much, rather than blend it with acceptance and content. I mean, she tries her best to give them as much distinction as possible, but she refuses to move on to something different, or use these points in her story to progress the album forward. It isn't enough to put your life in an album without giving variation or any semblance of human emotion that appears rational or sensible. Any emotional growth this album had failed to show until the very end. It rushes the resolution and the arc the story was trying to convey. This is more of a personal nitpick, but I did not enjoy the production choices on this one. Deja Vu is a perfect example. I'm just kind of bummed out by it. The way they provide a fuzzy texture to the electronics and the percussion just isn't my taste, and then you have very lightly altered songs like One Step Forward, 3 Steps Back. So as a whole, it's a bit inconsistent in that regard. I'm a guy who will always prefer the more raw acoustic scene in country music, so maybe it'll work for you. I give in to new waters every now and then, but this was just a flat out no for me. It's too weird, and it doesn't really vibe with the tone most songs are trying to go for. And third, and probably the biggest disappointing aspect, is the writing. I'm someone who upholds the writing more than anything when it comes to music, and it couldn't be more basic from a lyrical standpoint if it tried. I'm not really gonna bring up this song, as I have a whole video you can check out at your own leisure. There are chips at really intelligent moments like Happier, where she says this girl represents this dude forgetting about her, and you think she would build on that until the song completely drops that plot point for something way less interesting. Jealousy really annoys me, and I know what they were going for with that, for the repeating choruses, but I don't like it. Most songs I think are on the verge of greatness, but they just lose everything that can possibly make them special and unique, opting out for something far more formulaic and predictable. And I'm not holding it as an issue directly towards her, as she's 18, but while I give her some levy, I don't as much to people saying her writing is the best in years, because it simply is not. I'm not looking for bad things, they're just there, clear as day. There are some neat moments like in Deja Vu where she talks about watching reruns of Glee. Now that's great detailing, I like stuff like that. I will say, Hope You're Okay serves as a pretty bittersweet, well-executed conclusion to the album, and like seriously, where was this level of writing on the rest of the album? It is infinitely better than any song on here in that aspect. Overall, the album is in a relatively safe space. Most exceptional songs are just pretty good, and the worst are just decent. I think the last few were able to pick up the slack the upper half didn't. I'm just not emotionally invested in this story she's trying to tell, because she's stuck in the same place and doesn't seem like she wants to leave or grow or even learn from it. Yes, the emotions definitely hit and are portrayed fairly well, but that does not mean I have to like the album. Mr. Misunderstood is my all-time favorite, and I relate to it, sure, but it's also an extremely well-written, emotionally investing record. Is this a breakup album? Yeah, but it's not a very good one. I mean, fans of this channel already know what is. I try to be as objective as I can when it comes to music, especially music outside of the primary genre I'm based in. I'm giving Sour a 6 out of 10, a pretty decent album, much better than I thought it was going to be. I'm always going to prefer people like Alan Jackson or Travis Tritt because I was raised on that stuff. If you were raised on similar music like this, then go ahead. It's not bad by any means. I mean, she did make an album better than the worst Taylor Swift and Eric Church records, so I see this as an absolute win. Most debuts aren't really that good. good, let alone great, so she has nowhere to go but up. But given how much I've seen before, I can't really help but say you can find much better stuff out there. Until then, stand good for you because it's easily the best song.